Hello, and welcome to Inches and Cubes, a Warhammer 40k podcast presented by Encounter Wargaming. Our fearless hosts are me, Paul Mr. Fist Fowler,
Point and click Nick Coslow,
and
Adam Truaxe, the truest axe to ever axe an axe.
And we'll be guiding you through our favorite parts of the hobby, so grab your cubes and come with us.
Welcome to episode 13 of the Inches and Cubes podcast, The View from the Other Side. Last week we talked about the new Space Marine Codex.
The Index Astartes Space Marine Codex, just all the words that they pile on top of each other.
Thank you for that, Paul. Today we have a very special guest and a very special episode, so I'm very happy to introduce Simon, a.k.a. Val Heffelfinger, a.k.a. The Black Giraffe, a.k.a. The Butcher of Baskin-Robbins.
They're down to 25 flavors.
Beautiful.
So welcome, Simon, to the basement of nerddom. I'd love for you to give us a little snippet into your hobby resume.
Well, I'd love to share it with you. And first of all, thank you for having me on this show.
You're kindly welcome.
You brought the beer, so thank you.
Well, I was told I had to, so here I am. My hobby resume, I started way back in 2nd edition. And actually went through the last major edition shift from 2nd to 3rd as a wee lad, and stopped playing, I don't know, somewhere around 4th edition, something like that, and totally forgot about Warhammer entirely. And then one day I was playing Battlefield 4 on my really fancy PC gaming rig, and just losing super bad all the time, just getting shot in the face immediately. And so I thought there must be something else I could do with my time, and I googled Warhammer and saw an Orc Dacajet and said, holy, there's flyers now and gargants, and I was hooked. Basically, it's replaced all of my pastimes. Have become Warhammer now.
Well, usually I Google something else when I get bored, but...
Oh, I'm unusual.
My tastes are unusual. Unconventional tastes.
So after that, I was on Game Busters. I got really into buying and selling models to sort of feed. I couldn't spend the amount that I wanted to have, so
Can you ever?
I'm sure I could. But what I started doing was buying up lots and flipping models and amassed a really big collection of orcs. That was the first thing I rebuilt. I built and sold a big Imperial Guard army. Now I just have a nice sort of hobby project. I still have those of Elysians.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're really sweet.
I love that they always lose in 40k. In the actual storyline.
What's the opposite of a Mary Sue? Because that's those guys.
The idea is that they're using modern tactics in 40k, so they always lose. But then the other Forge World, Imperial Guard regiment, the Death Corps, they use World War II trench tactics, and they always win.
Well, I guess it's impressive to jump in on a parachute until you realize there's outer space above you. So yeah, there's those guys. And then I don't know if I said orcs, and probably my favorite is Grey Knights. So that's sort of rounds it out.
Nice. Awesome. Perfect. So we'll jump right into some hobby progress. I want to make this really easy. I don't have any. It's final exam time. Don't have a lot of free time, so no hobby progress for Nick.
Well, luckily I'm picking up your slack again this week. I've got the zombie dragon that I've been working on and is almost finished.
Picking up my slack.
Yeah, I've driven him to drink.
So today I'm drinking a Muskoka Brewery Detour. A refreshingly adventurous beer for those who want to stray from the everyday. Dry hop brewed as a sessionable IPA, it delivers a rewarding aroma and a taste less traveled. Check out your best... No, I'm not going to read that part. It just tells me to look at the best before date before I drink the beer.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing.
It's sometime after now.
Yeah. It's coming up in the future. But yeah, no, the zombie dragon's going well. I decided to take the skin tone really pale instead of sticking with the GW studio scheme. Having a lot of fun with that. Gonna go in with some technical paints and kind of gloss up all the exposed flesh and get that kind of really yucky looking. For my own army, the Imperial Fist, started working on the Hellblasters. Just just kind of really want to add a unit of those, a unit of aggressors, just because I like rolling tons of dice and then stuff going away. And also whipped up a new bolter captain and just a regular non-Primaris lieutenant. And yeah, that's what I've been doing. They're all primed yellow over the beige. And
Why yellow?
Oh, because they're Imperial Fists.
Oh, that makes sense.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's the name.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's funny. It's the first time I've built a captain that just has a bolter and a chainsword. Mainly,
That's all he needs.
But what is he pointing at?
he's sort of just that way.
Probably some Emperor's Children guy that Paul hates.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're purple. It's the complementary color. Get that color wheel out.
Our
kids.
armies do look really good on the table together.
Right?
If only we were friends.
Wait, what?
I've sensed tension.
Are we not pals?
You're not here for the couples therapy?
For those at home, I am legitimately right in the middle of all of this.
Every time we go to bed, we have to make a pillow wall.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is it shaped like a person?
Well, like by function of pillows, not by design.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my hobby progress. Simon, you paint or build or write any lists?
I have dabbled in mad dashes before tournaments in this thing you call painting. I do outsource a lot to our friends at Battle Brothers Painting Studios, who do excellent work and pay for that often by selling minis.
Yeah, that's...
But this week, actually, I'm worried about moving. Most orc lists these days start with 90 boys and go from there.
Yeah.
Which
And
is
it's still not enough.
It's super awesome. I remember in 7th, there were people just trying so hard to make Green Tide work, and now it's the only thing that works from what I can tell. So anyway, I got some movement trays, so just putting some sand on that. I don't know about these glosses and technical paints, but I have an Elmer's glue mixture
that works.
That I use to put the sand on there. I'll be hitting that with the airbrush.
Okay.
Perhaps a brown color. And then I'm going to use a technique that you might be familiar with, Paul, called dry brushing, to pick out those textured elements on the bases.
You know what? I've seen people mess up dry brushing. It's like...
That's probably a mistake a lot of people make. They use a wet brush.
Honestly, you're not wrong.
No.
Like that. I know you're trying to make a joke, but
apparently not doing a good job.
Well, that's the thing. People mess it up.
So anyway, I don't know, like we were saying this before the show, I'm not sure if this scheme's going to work, if it's going to be more of a pain in the ass or not to have them on these skirmish trays. You can look them up. Litco's got all kinds of cool gaming accessories.
Sorry, which company?
Litco.
Litco.
I think it's Litko. But they do a lot of, I mean, they're probably out of business now because they do a lot of like custom templates and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But they supply a lot of doodads and trinkets and markers for a lot of different game systems. Not really 40K.
How do you figure this will work with like a more textured gaming surface? Like if you've got rolling hills or not so much like a flat surface with then some area terrain in it?
Like, yeah, if you're playing on like a Realm of Battle board or, you know, the Sector Imperialis, yeah, you're going to get gummed up. But even the stuff down at, I mean, where these guys play at Sword and Board, purveyors of fine hobby products.
Where's that?
I think it's near Brock and Bloor.
Like behind the Pizza?
Yeah, like not in front, but on the
Hold
other
on.
side.
If I'm facing the Pizza, where's Sword and Board?
Behind it.
Yeah,
Right.
so you just got to go past it, and then when you're on the back of it, that's the sword and board. And it's not actually a sword and a board. It's a store that you go into.
It's more of a store and board.
Yeah.
Well, they have a Sword and Board now.
Well, then
They've got
I'm just an asshole.
They've got a fantastic. Okay, all right. I'll do that. Do you want me to do that for you?
The moment passed.
Yeah.
So they've actually got a custom made sign.
So I think you were making an interesting point, which I have considered, Nick, which is the textured surfaces could make it a little awkward. But for the most part, I play on those FLG mats or the game mats, which are just a delight to play on, to move things, to push
They
things
really
on.
are. Yeah.
No more wrecked knuckles from scooping up dice.
Are you going to get one of those like shuffleboard sticks, like a World War II general, and you could be like, "Aha!
Absolutely.
I've caught the Russians in my No, I don't know why I'm talking in a Russian accent, but I've caught them in my pincer movement.
My orcs are blood axes, so it could work.
Yeah, they know tactics.
Yeah. I think I do need you to do this. Oh, there we go.
There's some trouble opening a beer. Technical difficulties.
I got little fingernails that I've chewed off nervously. The Great Lakes Brewery have supplied me with this great Canuck Pale Ale, which I'm not sure if you're aware. It has been said that Canada is the only country in the world that knows how to live without an identity, which is super depressing. Thanks, Great Lakes Brewery.
Yeah.
Or we've just transcended the need for nationalism.
Well, I'm just going to join you in a Great Lakes.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Yeah, to friendship.
To Loblaws, where I bought these.
Crazy.
Because you can do that now.
Civilized.
Well, you can buy beer in a store as long as you pay the oligarchy.
It's true.
Anywho, so making those Litco templates, and hopefully it works. It may be a disaster and a tremendous waste of money, but whatever. That's what we do with this game.
I'd love to see them when they get done, because from time to time I run a blob of 30 cultists, and they are absolutely mind-numbing. I actually actively encourage my opponents to kill them, so I don't have to move them around the table.
It's big blobs are the worst.
I think that's exactly what cultists are meant to do, though. Just soak up fire.
That's true.
Yeah,
but I don't want to move them.
Sure. So, I mean, that's everybody's hobby progress.
Yeah, you went out of order, but that's fine. We'll just ignore Nick's master plan here. Back to games played. Nick, I don't have any games played.
Oh.
So that's easy.
Well, you're always playing some sort of game.
It's true. The long game. The long war. I'm just going to do a huge shout-out. I'm going to talk about this in the next podcast. This Saturday, we are running a Horus Heresy narrative event out of the Sword and Board. I am super looking forward to this. Chaz and Connor, not Connor the Hair Collie, but the other Connor, who I don't have a nickname for.
Well, he's got no hair right now.
He does have no hair right now. Have done a fantastic job of putting together a very, very, almost professionally level designed pamphlet that includes pictures, Photoshop stuff, fluff stuff from the Heresy. Super stoked to play in that game. There's going to be third-party armies. There's going to, I don't know what, they've got some terrifying stuff involved.
What's a third-party army, if I might ask?
So the way that I think it's going to work is certain scenarios will just have, like, kind of an NPC.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like, you're rescuing the stranded dudes.
Or you're trying to kill them.
Yeah.
If I have to rescue anybody, it's just so I can distill their organs down into drugs and wear their skin on my face.
And if the Imperial Fist have to rescue anyone, it's so they can look sternly at them. We're very, very disappointed in you.
Shouldn't have left the fortification.
Nope.
It's true.
What are you doing? There's cover in there. We always get it.
So Simon, what have you been up to?
Games played wise? So I referred to back in the day when I used to play 40K in the third eds. Played it like all games of 40K in a basement, although this time it was my friend's parents' house. And those guys moved on to other stuff and hadn't really played, but last week, for the first time, I guess, in nearly 15, 20 years, I guess, whatever it's been, one of my friends came over, and I literally just gave him an index and my closet of Tau models, and he whipped up a power level list really fast. I did the same thing with Grey Knights, and he played a game seamlessly. It was actually kind of hilarious how much he remembered, I think, from before. And if I'm not mistaken, he beat me playing Maelstrom. But it was a lot of fun. It was really dynamic. He picked like all the fast units. He brought a bunch of piranhas. He brought I just remember those damn piranhas. Oh, he brought some hammerheads because they looked cool. It was like literally like a Games Workshop commercial for like so easy to play and just play with what's cool. Except he just happened to pick fantastic units, and we had a wonderful game. I played a super elite Grey Knights army, just like a Storm Ravens, some Paladins. I dropped Drago in front of the hammerhead and tried to first turn charge it just to be cool. Did not work.
No.
It might work now with the Codex coming out because you give him a really sweet invuln, but not at that point. Drago died a merciless death immediately.
Oh, that is ignoble.
But I believe sometimes you just gotta play the narrative or what you feel is the story compelling you in the game.
Yeah, what a casual game for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we were just checking bones. It was great, and lost, but had a tremendous amount of fun.
That's awesome.
which is a theme you'll find in my wargaming experience.
I mean, I think that everyone's got that theme. Like, most people, I think, go like 50-50 win-loss.
Paul and I are perpetually locked at 50-50 win-loss between the two of us.
Okay.
Yeah. I shouldn't complain as much as I do, but
Now, not to
someone needs to.
contradict you, but between two players against each other, wouldn't it be impossible to be 500 at all times?
I don't understand. 500?
Wouldn't someone have to win a game?
No, we're 50-50. Like,
Like-
I've won, let's say we've played 12 games. I've won 6, he's won 6.
Yeah. It's more of a series
Yeah,
rather
okay.
than
All
a
right. Okay.
individual stat.
Oh,
Okay.
it's a constant series.
I see what you're saying.
And this is across 30k and 40k.
All right. Well,
7th and 8th.
7th and 8th.
certainly adds to the crackling tension shared around.
It definitely does.
You could cut it with a spoon. Well, if that's your games played, I managed to get out and finally face down Connor the Hare Collie, Yellow Belly Coward, and I kind of have to. I'm not going to apologize for
Did he remember his tanks this time?
He did remember his tanks this time. Let me tell you, that guard list is hard. So it's
I know.
2 great big blobs of conscripts, 2 wyverns, a manticore, some ogrins in a chimera, some vets in a valkyrie, more vets in a chimera, a hellhound, which might be the funniest tank in the entire game.
It's so
Best
good.
tank.
I
It's so
love it.
good.
It's a bomb. Like it's just like coming right at you, and you're
It was
like,
blows up on a 4+, right?
yeah. And you're like, it's got how many wounds left? Oh no! But there's no degradation of its ballistic skill because it's
It auto hits.
burning everything. So I really like the design of that tank. I played my Necrons, big blob of 20 warriors, a Satan or a Catan, depending on how you want to say it. The Tesseract Arc from Forge World.
To the Forge World one. Is that the first time you've used it?
Yeah, it's the first time I used it in 8th, and
You got any of those pylons?
I don't have any pylons. I should look into those?
They're stupid. Just read them. Just
Okay.
read about them.
There's some out on the street right now.
I think.
they're doing road work.
Oh, neat.
They're still sleeping, though, those ones.
They're bright orange. I don't know if they'd really fit with the table.
No. Then
Roxy?
a bunch of Immortals, an Annihilation Barge, and some Wraiths and the Praetorians. And it was going well for me for a while. I took Seismic Assault on or whatever it's called, on the Satan, where you roll a dice for each model in a unit. If you get a 6, that's a mortal wound. I did that to the conscripts and got, of a blob of 20, I did 9 mortal wounds.
Oh, nice.
So that sort of kind of blunted that side of the
It
table.
must feel like a huge waste to do like mortal wounds to conscripts.
Not really, killed him.
That's true.
Like,
Was he running commissars? Did he have some guys backing them up?
yeah, there were commissars. And then Tesla does really good work on guard blobs as well. Just generating those extra hits. Use my Lord on my Tesla Immortal, my Overlord, to give them +1 ballistic skill, so Tesla was triggering on 5s and 6s, getting lots of hits like that. And then I dropped my Death Marks in his backfield in an attempt to snipe his Warlord, just to be mean. And I gotta say, like, Connor totally knew what I was doing, so he was, like, positioning everything, so I had just no place to get within double tap range. And just kept his Warlord against the table edge a little bit, so he was smart with that. I gotta say, I love the way that Ogrins function on the table now. They are monsters. They just beat the Satan to death.
So funny to imagine.
Oh yeah, just like fatty swinging away at a Star God and doing it. Like, I really liked that. The main thing about that army that Connor plays is the Wyverns are just dropping wounds on you over and over and over and over and over and over.
Well, especially in just infantry models.
Yeah,
Like,
and
did he blow away your blob with wyverns?
his entire army that was in range ended up shooting at it in one turn, and he managed to wipe it out around like turn 4 or something.
I'm really excited to see Necron stratagems. I have
Yeah,
a feeling there's going to
gonna
be
be neat.
there's going to be one that's just like activate, and on a 5 or a 6 you ignore wounds.
yeah, or like it. I think that's where you'll see stuff like Veil of Darkness. That'll be a stratagem
Oh,
as
yeah.
opposed to a relic. But yeah,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I think cool opportunity there is the Necrons are one of those psychic-less armies, so they'll, I guess, just like the same way I feel about the Tau, and is that the stratagems will be able to add that, like, sort of above the table options for them that they don't normally have. So it could be super cool. Now, I just want to ask, like, I noticed that you play Space Marines, Imperial Fists,
yeah,
static, fortified, slow moving.
right,
You also have a Xenos army
yeah.
that is static, fortified, and slow moving. What were the thoughts there?
Well,
Paul
the
doesn't have an imagination.
so my Necron army was actually one of the fastest armies I've ever played. I would run the Veil of Darkness. I run
Compared to guys standing in a field, yes.
yeah. And then I run like Night Scythes, usually beaming guys in. I do the Praetorians and the Wraiths. So like it's a fast build of the Necrons.
Cool.
I liked being able to redeploy. I like taking the Deceiver now. So his special thing is you roll a d3. You can redeploy that many units plus him 9 inches away. So I just love the idea of a gun line that for some reason shifts around a ton.
Yeah.
It's not a tactic I see a lot. It's just, fun to do.
So I think that's the exact same reason I love Grey Knights. It's just the fact they can redeploy and jump all over the place, and yeah, cool.
You give me how much hell for playing an army that does that really, really well?
Oh, tons.
I know.
And even better now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, the improvements to like Emperor's Children, like in the entire. We'll get into that in fun time.
You heard about that last episode.
Yeah.
And you heard the absolute terror in Paul's voice.
Yeah, it wasn't anger, it was fear.
So now's a good time. I think we should just jump in with a little tidbit we missed in the Space Marine review on Paul's favorite Necron character. We're talking about Necrons now.
You know what? Let me whip out the screenshot I took of that.
It's Chaboy.
It's my boy. Yeah, just because we absolutely love Trazen, or at least I do. There's the great bit in the what's his name? Vulcan Hestans, or he stands. How do you pronounce it?
Well, there's many Vulcans, right?
Yeah. So the current chapter master of the Salamanders, there's just this super fun call out about how Trazen keeps trying to steal all the artifacts that he finds. So there's like actually just a tug of war between him and Trazen over the spear, and like that's just so funny. It's
just shows up when Vulcan's in the shower and like grabs a spear.
Yeah,
and
it's
just
like,
teleports out of there.
And like it's not like he's gonna use it in battle. He just wants it.
It's like a creepy Yoda.
Yeah,
he's a hoarder. We talked about this.
Yeah, he's a troll. He's a Warhammer collector.
I like the idea that he's like a 19th century German like princip or something, like just with collecting all these animal heads in his big mansion in the middle of nowhere.
Oh yeah, like just has a letter of authenticity with like a platypus skeleton.
So many Beanie Babies.
So the Beanie Babies are actually Space Marines.
Yeah, just people
and babies
and fingerless creeds.
Wow.
One of my speaking of Beanie Babies, one of my favorite things I've ever seen on the internet is like a 1999 divorce court photo where it's a couple on their knees in a courtroom separating their Beanie Baby collection.
Oh wow!
It is the saddest thing I've ever seen, and it keeps me warm at night.
So you know finance.
Oh, well, I dabble.
So you be able to tell me what my Beanie Baby collection's worth now? Was it a good investment?
I'm more into. You know what is a good investment? Citadel miniatures, people.
Yeah,
if you've got out of print Forge World, if you've got really, it's wild. I couldn't believe it. That was the number one thing that blew my mind when I came back was that there was a resale market. Mm-hmm. The fact that there is a thriving, and I don't know if I can mention this here, but I'm going to, bootleg market is insane.
Yeah.
Like, how many people play this game? And there are probably towns in China supported exclusively by like people's addiction to like illicit Forge World.
I'll tell you right now, you by China Forge, you're supporting a small business. No, I'm kidding. I'm not advertising China Forge. I'm just saying it is interesting to see that these recasters and bootleg stuff, it is like one or two guys who stole casting equipment from the factory in their town.
or not, or they went to college for it, and
Yeah.
they're like running like really advanced enterprises. If I was Games Workshop, I'd be looking at my pricing model first and foremost. But second of all, like that's just wild to me that there's that kind of demand that people would trust someone on the opposite side of the planet that doesn't, you can't even speak to send them illicit material. This is wild.
I've heard stories that when you drill into it, it smells like gasoline.
Yeah.
Which makes me think that this is highly flammable resin.
Just a friend of a friend, though, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, no.
No.
Yeah, I'm still stripping down a despoiler class Battlefleet Gothic ship, and I'm hoping to get at least $100.
Oh,
From
the
it on
Battlefield
eBay.
Gothic stuff? Well, I've never strayed from what I know, which is 40K, but I've in lots and stuff gotten collections of Battlefleet Gothic.
Yeah.
And, the resale is crazy on it. Although that's going to fall out. You better sell that soon because the 4 will fall out when they release whatever the new BFG is going to be.
That's true.
Do you think they're going to do it? I really
It was announced. It was something that they. I don't know. It was one of the first big new GW things was the Specialist games coming back, and one of the headliners of that was some form of Battlefield Gothic.
I
excited.
I think I mentioned this a couple of podcasts back that I really want more time to come back. That is super fun.
And they're not afraid to put stuff in the old world despite it having exploded.
Yeah.
They got Blood Bowl back. There's no reason why we wouldn't see Mordheim.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a setting. It just...
Exploded.
Yeah, that's fine. Lots of
Yeah,
stuff
we
explode.
play 30K. It's in the past.
The
But
Death
it's in the
Star's
future.
Death Star's exploded. They made 4 movies about it.
Oh god, they did.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible.
Do you guys remember the old PC game? I think it's... oh, God. It's like it's basically the story of Rogue One that was like made in like 97.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came with like the first computer my family had. Maybe it was like 95. Point is, it's Rogue One.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it for our intro. We got a little bit off topic, but that is why you're listening to us for these fun little tangents.
Yeah, no, let's not.
That's why I do it.
Let's not dissect
Right.
that at all. Like, don't invite the listener to dissect why they listen.
So we're going to whip up a quick stir fry. We're going to enjoy it, and we'll be back at you in 45 to an hour.
Yeah, I'd say 2 hours. Let's be safe.
Well, I wanted to just my food.
All right. Well, goodbye.
Battle Brothers Studios, a commission painting service passionate about making your miniatures and your gaming table look great. Our philosophy at Battle Brothers is this: your army is our army. Every model will be something you can be proud to show off. Send us a message on facebook.com/Battle Brothers Studios for a free quote and make that dream project come to life. We also have something special planned for the release of 8th edition of 40K. Right now, get 20% off if you commission us to paint an 8th edition starter set, or get a 10% off Army Bundle bonus for painting up your new 8th edition 40K Army. Inquire with us on Facebook for full details.
Hogtown, Hogtown, Hogtown!
Saturdays at Sword and Board!
Rock and Bloor!
It's behind the pizza.
Oh, yeah!
Idiots.
Welcome back from the break. Paul's here. Nick's here. Simon's here.
Still here.
Still here.
What do we do on the break, guys?
Got drunk.
Yeah, shots. Mostly shots.
This will be fun for you guys.
Yeah. Watched Super Troopers and lined up a bunch of tequila and knocked it right down.
Yeah, so we have, like I said before, a very special episode for you with Simon. I actually don't know your last name, Simon, but that's probably for the best because we'll probably never see you again after this podcast.
It's on purpose.
Simon's here. He's going to give us a view from the other side, which is what this episode is titled. So, Hogtown 40K, our gaming group, we are identified and identify as casual 40K players. You may have heard the term,
The phrase.
we're obnoxious about being bad at 40K, and Mr. Simon here was the one who coined that phrase. So first of all, thank you.
No problem.
Second of all, what the hell?
Well,
No, I'm kidding.
Thirdly, he's right.
He's right. No, he's definitely right. So we wanted to bring in a different viewpoint. So Simon is here to talk to us today about the more competitive side of 40K.
Yeah.
So
Simon kind of identified that we seem to, and totally do, have a bias against like competitive. I think that I am more of like, I like the hobby side of things, and I don't get into like competitive play a ton, but I like it. And you know, Simon reached out to us and said, "You guys got a bit of a bias. Can I come in and talk?" Which is like the best way to address that.
well, thank you.
You know,
for
like,
sure.
where it's like, "Hey, I have a problem. Can we be pals about it?"
And he told us his real name, even though he used a fake Facebook profile to contact us.
I thought that would be clearly the fakest name on the internet, and it blows my mind how few people realize
It is
that.
so hard not to just refer to you as Val.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, my middle name is Valfred. That's a real thing.
Okay.
Valfred?
Yeah. And the
Just gonna gloss right over that.
Okay, no, actually, no. I'm digging deeper.
yeah, go for it.
Why? What were
Why?
your
Well,
parents thinking?
that was my grandfather's name, Valfred. Oh shit!
We found his last name, guys.
Bleep that out.
Yep. I
Dutch?
will.
No, it's an Estonian name, and he was a tremendously old man.
His entire life.
The whole time I was alive.
He was born very, very old.
1908, as a matter of fact. So
Holy
he was a
cats.
super old dude even when I was born. So anyway, that was his name. And the last name, Heffelfinger, is a reference that I don't think anyone would get. If you get the reference, Heffelfinger, you got a free Primaris Space Marine coming your way. I don't know how you'll get it, though.
No. Seems ungoogleable.
I'm gonna Google
It's
it.
super Googleable.
Okay. You may have heard pen scratching. I was writing that down for later.
Anyway, what were we talking about?
We were
Why you're here?
Oh, right.
introducing your magnanimous offer to appear on the podcast.
Right. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think the mindset that you guys share is, a bad one, a wrong one. I think that's kind of where I want to come from because, oddly enough, like one of my favorite things about 40K and Warhammer is observing the subculture and how it works and how people interact with each other, especially on Facebook where my fake name comes into play. And I find actually that the fluff players, the casuals or whatever you want to call them, the guys who are into the lore, as the independent characters would say, they're actually some of the most standoffish, hardcore people in this whole community. And actually, as a competitive player, we're the ones with all the pejoratives. We're cheesemongers. We're whack. We're win at all costs. There's all these things that are just dripping with scorn. And I think, especially in Toronto, that comes from a strong foundation in the fact that we used to have a lot of Games Workshop stores. I think a lot of us came up playing in the stores, and that's a really hobby centric view is really strong and pervasive. But I think on the other hand, there's a lot of good that can come from just getting a little bit better at 40K.
Absolutely, and I think that was like one of the reasons. As soon as you suggested this, like we jumped at it. We thought it was a great idea because this is a game, and when you play, you like to win. Everyone does. Like anyone listening to this probably likes to win. If not, you're weird.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit, but I mean, first of all, it's a game. I think the Games Workshop has positioned it. It's certainly in 7th edition. 7th edition. Let's look at that. The lore players, the fluff players. If you read the internet, hated it. It made people run away from the game. The reality is, though, that was a game system designed for people who wanted to make narratively driven games. Sigmar, huge flop when it dropped.
Yeah.
That game was literally play whatever, make something up, go out there. It's a sandbox. The reality is people don't want that. They want the structure. They want rules. They want to play a game against somebody. They want to be able to show up at a store or at someone's house and have a reasonable chance at a balanced match. And to do that, you're going to need a competitive rule set.
And I think that's a really good point to get in, and it's something that we kind of touched on with when 8th edition came out. We were all really excited, and I think like something that we all said was most units have a use now.
Oh yeah.
Which, once you boil it down, that is a competitive mindset where it's like, I can actually use this. This is no longer a tax. This is no longer like an albatross in my list that's just weighing me down. this is something that has a function on the table. If you're excited about that, you're happy that it's more competitive.
Right. And I mean, and that comes down to actually, the Games Workshop, really there's people complaining right now, oh, they're outsourcing, 8th edition's, testing to the community and people. We're fixing a broken edition like anyone complains about a video game that launches too early.
Yeah.
But really what it is, we're finding all of those quirks in the rule set and we're sort of optimizing it. And at the end of the day, we're going to have a much better game that plays well. Off the shelf, like at the beginning I talked about, Buddy coming back after 15 years of not playing, picking pretty much at random what he thought looked cool. Yeah. And we had a great game.
And, like, to your point about it being, like, we're all beta testers, people are going to find those flaws regardless.
Sure.
So it's now just Games Workshop saying, like, well, we'll listen to your feedback.
Yeah.
Which, like, people have been crying for that for years.
And I think...
No, it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a huge difference to see, like, how long did it take for the FAQs to drop? Two main rulebook FAQs in the course of a month.
Right. I mean, if you look at 7th edition, essentially it was, you guys figure it out, right? If you have a disagreement, Jervis Johnson it, throw the 4 up, figure it out, and move on. But really, that I think they rapidly, it's sort of the Steve Jobs thing, like, you don't ask people what they want, because Games Workshop really was catering to what they thought was its base, casual gamers. They hated it.
Honestly,
So, yeah.
like, and we've mentioned it before, like, 7th edition, we were all just exhausted of playing, like, 40K. I think that's what drove a lot of us to the Horus Heresy. That and the lore, the background, and just getting decals.
Really, just being able to rub it all over your body and just crack open those seals and really smell the vapors.
7th took such a big pre-game conversation.
Yes.
Right? Like, this is the type of game we're going to play. These are the types of armies we're going to bring, to the point where any event, any even casual game was like, our game club doesn't use super heavies.
Mm-hmm.
That was just a rule. And you like that. We talked about unwritten rules before we started the podcast. And 7th, I think, had so many unwritten rules for whatever game shop, whatever friend group that you were currently in.
And if I could maybe use that as an awesome segue to, like, what makes competitive 40K kind of good is that there isn't any unspoken rules. I think there's a lot of fear out there coming from, the casual mindset, people who, aren't in it to win it, which, again, I have a little bit of problems believing that. You're sitting down to play a game.
Yeah, no one sits down to a game of checkers for the experience.
Yeah, no one wants to king anyone in a game of checkers, and no one wants to get table turn one in a game of 40K. Like, that's just not the way I think anyone really makes it work. But does the game match, what your expectations are of it? And are you wishing the game fit what you want to happen in your mind? And I think that's kind of maybe the difference between a competitive 40K player and a narrative sort of style gamer, in the sense that, I really don't see people upset or like really hurt feelings at tournaments. You know what you're getting into. Most people who go to a tournament realize that, there's a line here that I had written down, there is no such thing as cheese. And I think that's really true, because within whatever the rules of that tournament is, that's what's cool to play. Yeah. And, you're out there to, have great games. You're not there to be a jerk. There's I have played so many games at tournaments. I don't understand where this idea comes from, unless maybe, you're afraid of or intimidated by, the attention to detail that playing a competitive game might be, the higher expectations that playing a must-win match might have. I just don't see the abusive people out there. I don't see people doing mean things. It's a social game, and that extends to the competitive community. Like, I've got friends somehow, all over, with fake name and all over North America, England. I'm talking to people in Australia.
Yeah,
I've traveled. When I first got back into 40K, I said earlier that I had a long hiatus, and I sort of suddenly came back to this very intense, not casual hobby. Nothing casual about, like, picking up an airbrush kit and figuring out how to use that thing.
Yeah.
But first thing I said to my wife is, don't worry, I'm not going to be one of those convention guys.
Oh, no.
Within a year, I was in Las Vegas.
Yeah, you guys can't see this, but he showed up dressed head to toe like a Crute warrior.
That's right. Yeah, it was a cosplay convention. It wasn't even a tournament. But anyway,
the wrong furry convention.
that was a long ramble, and just to maybe bring it back down to earth a little bit, I think when talking about 40K competitively, the first thing, and it's going to seem super obvious, but it's that it's okay to try to win. And I think that is a big difference between a narrative gamer and a competitive player, is that it's okay to try and win. And it's not necessarily you're trying to, win the whole tournament. You might be, like in 7th, there were armies that sucked. Like, you couldn't do anything with them. They were awful. Orcs were in there, Grey Knights for a period. Just Harlequins. Yet there were people who would show up to tournaments with those armies because in their mind they were like, if I could go 2-3, if I can win one game with this army, I'm going to feel good.
Oh, well, I mean, when we showed up to Astro, which is not the same sort of event that you're talking about, but I realized, I'm showing up. If I can do a 50-50 split,
sure,
I'm going to call that a good day.
Yeah.
Good 2 days. Yeah. And, day 2, I won 2 of my 3 games, got my 50-50 split, and an terribly powerful hangover. So I was like, this has been a good weekend.
And look, I'm here espousing, how, I'm supposed to be here on the pro competitive side. I am not, capital N, not a good 40K player. And we'll get into that maybe if we have time. But, the point I'm making there is I've lost to some of the better players in Warhammer 40,000, Americans and Canadians. I knock against that, the 40K glass ceiling. I've gone 3-2. That's pretty much my best record. I've never managed to get through a tournament, with a podium finish. But that's cool. I know that maybe one day I'll get a hot streak and get that one loss, magical run, and I'll maybe hang them up at that time. But anyway, you don't need to be out there to win the whole thing. You could set your own goals for yourself. And that goal can be, win best painted. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, at big events, this is another big thing I hear you guys talking about is there's a great podcast. They don't do much anymore, but it was called Facing the Gray Tide. And it was, I think, a tongue-in-cheek comment on competitive play. And I think maybe in stores you see that more, but when you're actually traveling out to events and you're going to these things that people, plan months and months in advance, you got to book hotels and flights. People aren't showing up to that with, great plastic. They may not have, Golden Demon winning stuff, but not everyone can do that anyway.
Yeah, and I think it's what you just said kind of illuminated something for me where I think the issue is big fish players in the idea that you have someone that can run a group. Run the table on a group. They're a pool shark of 40K. They're bringing things.
Oh, they're famous, yeah.
Yeah, but at a tournament, that conversation's been had. We spoke a moment ago about how we in 7th edition it was always a conversation that you had to have. The tournament setting has that conversation for you.
Yes,
and that I think that's a important point to remember. That this is a bunch of people that have agreed to these sort of rule sets, or these conditions. That being said, would you just kind of take us through the different sort of formats that a tournament can take?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's probably 2 main things that anyone out there who even passively has run into. Tournament reports out there. You're running them on Facebook and all the big news sites. Oh my!
Can you not knock my cabinet of Warhammer over, please, Paul?
Listen, I can't beat you on the table. I'm just going to smash your stuff.
It's an effective strategy,
right?
Also, I wonder if IKEA knows that they only sell that cabinet to nerds who love toy soldiers.
You know what? I don't think they do because they would put in.
You can buy them.
Yeah, no, there's a mod kit.
You can buy a mod kit for the not Feldherr. What are they? Detolf. The Detolfs.
It sounds like you even know how to say that.
Here's the thing that I love about, quick aside, we'll get back to you.
Are we into IKEA furniture?
Yeah,
we're into IKEA furniture.
We're going to talk about IKEA furniture.
Love their meatballs.
Welcome to Inches and Cubes.
That's not furniture.
Yep, no, that's...
You don't try hard enough.
Yeah, believe in yourself, too. So the reason that all of the IKEA stuff is named, words, is because the guy that was
Just named words.
named word, it's like, oh, this is like our Bach, and
Like that's my LAC coffee table. That's my
Exactly.
D12 case. I think that's all the IKEA I have.
So the guy designing the catalog couldn't use the serial numbers or the call numbers because he was dyslexic, so he just started naming stuff what it was. So what we think is like, oh, this is a really clever name for something. It's like,
Coffee table.
yeah, plain. It's just a plain thing.
Cabinet.
Or like clear. Just stuff like that. And I love that fact.
Yeah.
It's a good fact.
You guys want to drive out to IKEA though, get some meatballs?
Yeah. You know what I really like?
I just want
is
to check
their
the cranberry sauce.
cranberry sauce, but
It's lingonberry.
she's not wrong.
Yeah, which I know that because they grow locally in the part of Labrador that I grew up in, and I have in my house.
Is lingonberry a moss? I didn't know that.
It's a lichen. Thank you very much. No, it's also called partridge berry,
Okay.
and
AKA.
I have a ton of partridge berry jam at my house.
Canola, also known as rapeseed.
I can see why they went with canola.
I definitely see that. Why
I think it's pronounced rapé.
Touche.
Touche.
Anyways, back to IKEA. Their
Yeah.
their potato and broccoli cakes.
Yeah.
So good.
Didn't know that was a cake.
Sounds like a joke.
No, so good.
It's more Balatka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely is. Paul, one day on the podcast, I want you to tell me the explosive story from your hometown.
Really?
Absolutely not. Nope, that I can't. I am legally unable to tell that story.
Explosive. Anywho, I believe you were prompting me to discuss competitive formats.
Look at you bringing it back on track by yourself.
Dad
Adam's
mode,
not even
dad
here.
mode.
Well, you know,
You've got it.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. So not only do I lose to a lot of good players, but I listen to a lot of podcasts. About
Wait, we're not the only podcast? I thought we were special.
There are other ones.
Okay.
I'm not sure you have other listeners, but there are other podcasts.
Touche.
No laughs on that one, guys. All right. So, moving along. I think most people would be shocked to learn that there are two main competitive formats, or at least the ones that I know of anyway.
The ITS, right?
Somehow, the ITS. Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
I'm gonna take my lumps.
Let me tell you something about the ITS. I'm going to tap on the table just to drive that one home, Paul. All right. Sorry, he didn't like that. Singles events are by far the most common.
Like a mixer, right?
Yeah, like most people who attend it would be single. I'm married, so
You wear the red wristband.
That's right.
Yeah, I use a yellow handkerchief stuffed in my back pocket.
I can see why you guys have trouble taking this seriously. That's pretty obvious.
We like the joke 'em ups.
So do I. But usually I have a time limit. Singles events are what most people would know of as a tournament. You're just going to get matched up. They use something called Swiss pairings. So essentially the way it works is another cool thing about tournaments. That first round, you're going to maybe get kicked in the teeth. Maybe you're playing against the guy who's going to win the tournament and you lose. That's great. Well, you're going to play in the second round someone else who lost. So as the tournament progresses, you're being paired against people who are closer to your skill level. Okay. Maybe you take your lumps for one or two rounds, but after that, you're playing against light competition. So I tend to win 2 games and lose the third. Singles events also use ITC.
ITC.
Yes.
What does that stand for?
It stands for the Independent Tournament Circuit.
Neat.
And it was started by some guys out on the West Coast named Reese Robbins and Frankie. For real. Frankie's he's a super cool guy. Anyway, I can't remember his last name. GM Papa is his last name. Anyway, so they use some old Games Workshop terminology, RTTs, and Grand Tournaments, GTs. RTT stands for... This is fluffy.
Rough and tumble tumbleweeds.
Rough and tumble tournament.
Yeah.
Also known as date night at Nick's place.
Ooh.
Road trader tournaments and grand tournaments are all GW names. The ITC also brought in, I think, because Reese and Frankie were driving a lot of participation, the concept of a major event. So these would be your marquee stuff. That's like the Las Vegas Open you may have heard of. Adepticon would probably qualify as a major. The Nova Open are majors. In Canada, I'm pretty sure we still haven't gotten a singles still haven't gotten a singles event that is major status. I might be wrong. But
I feel like there may have been grand tournaments here in the past. I know that Games Workshop used to do like Canadian Games Days.
Sure, yeah, like I'm talking more like ITC point qualifying
gotcha.
type events. So there were definitely grand tournaments and Games Days in Canada before, and even something like Astro would totally have enough players to qualify as a GT. They just don't participate in the ITC and accumulate points. So the scale of these things are a GT's 28 players to about 54 players. It's going to be played over 2 days, so it's a bit of a time commitment. And then a major is over 54 players. So idea for scale, the LVO was over 400 players last year.
That's the Las Vegas Open.
That's the Las Vegas Open for you folks out there.
I really think that Hogtown needs to go to LVO 2018.
100%. And look, I say that without hesitation because it's not just the singles. Right?
No, there's so much going on.
Right, just events. Like Adepticon. Like Adepticon has tons of amazing events. You can go there as a club and have a great time. And you can compete in the singles or you can't. It's up to you, really.
Well, like I just dream of like going to Vegas, a bunch of nerds.
Oh, yeah.
We play games all one day. We find a place that we can shoot automatic weapons at. I don't know, horses? No, that's bad. And it's Vegas.
Pumpkins.
Pumpkins.
They're alive. They scream.
Cardboard cutouts of competitive tournament players.
Well, we're learning why we don't do that.
At the LVO I went last year. It was a pretty sweet event. It's also just super neat to walk into a room with, what would 400 players? It's 200 tables.
Yeah, that's.
I'd love to see that.
It's pretty wild. All of those tables have great terrain on it. It's a lot of modular stuff that Frontline Gaming makes, coincidentally. On there, every table has a fat mat, so you're playing on great surfaces. It's a really awesome event, and these days, Games Workshop showing up, Forge World's there. You got the Warhammer TV crew. I actually played on Warhammer TV, which was really hilarious.
Oh, get out!
And lost badly to a guy who's on the American ETC team, which might be a good segue to the other format.
Yeah.
Out there, which is team. So team format.
So I'd really like to.
You want to double back?
No. I want you to really explain from the ground up.
Okay.
How team formats work. So let's get really in depth because honestly, would love to run something like this.
Right.
Because these things are fun.
Okay.
They're like we talked about above the board type of stuff before.
Yes.
Team events really encourage that.
Yes, there's a cool, I guess you might call it a meta game. So the idea is, obviously, you're on a team. So depending on which team event you're at, you'll have teams of various sizes. In Canada, really, Ontario, we have the Canhammer Team Tournament. It happens in the spring. This event, if you are listening and are thinking, I'd love to do that, sells out in minutes. I couldn't believe it. It's the only event in Canada that I know of that does that. We had 80 players, 20 teams, so 4-man teams last year. Each team has to be a different. Each player on the team needs to be a different faction.
I like that.
That's cool.
That's
so,
really cool.
they could, in 7th you could have mixed factions, obviously, but you couldn't repeat them.
What do you like? So only one player can play Space Marines.
You got it.
Nice.
Yeah. And these days it would probably be based on keyword or
Yep.
whatever. But yeah, so you wouldn't be able to repeat that. So what the meta game is that we were talking about comes at the matchup level. So I think right now people are in a bit of a panic because actually what happened was the first 2 major, and by that I mean just huge events that occurred after 8th edition were actually team events. So you have the ATC, so the American Team Championship, which a lot of people think spawned the boots on the ground rule, which got rid of flyer spam.
Right.
And then
Now, did we address flyer spam last?
I got it wrong in the last one. Yes.
Okay. So
Which I'm still
did.
kind of confused about.
what would you like to know about?
Well, I mean, so units that are in transports
thing
aren't considered deployed.
It's just like 7th in the sense that
I just dug through the rulebook. I couldn't find any reference to a unit in a transport isn't technically on the table for rules purposes.
Well, actually, yeah, it's pretty explicit. I think in the transport section where it says they do not interact with the tabletop for any purpose. I can't remember the wording of it.
That's correct.
But they're just not there. So any way that they interact with the tabletop is actually a rule that the transport has. Like the open top rule tells you what stuff can happen.
Right.
But so with boots on the ground, essentially, you can deploy in the transport, but you would lose if you didn't disembark them.
Okay. So if you,
it's at the end of your turn.
Yeah, it's just like in 7th. If at the end of a turn in 7th you didn't have models on the table, you lost. Now flyers don't count as models on the table.
Okay.
And troops in transports don't either.
Now, like, I find that, I wonder if this is the start of a lot of Band-Aid solutions. Like, I worry about that.
So maybe when we get to comp, we can delve into that a bit more deeply. I think that is
we'll put a pin in that.
Yeah, we'll put it in the parking lot, if you will.
Whoop, whoop.
But I think, to me, look, if you think of a year ago where we were with the game, so I was getting ready for Capital City. What was big then? I was running Double Storm Surge Riptide Wing.
Yeah.
Right? That was a big, mean list. You know, we had Gladius or whatever. Those were the big lists. We had Eldar jet bikes and all that kind of stuff. You know, 3-4 months later, Magnus is around, and the scene's totally changed from a competitive perspective.
Yeah.
You know, what else is around? Gene Stealer cult's around. You know, charging out of reserves. That didn't happen before that.
No. Also, the Gladius list is such a cool, fluffy idea, but seems like such a boring list to collect. Like, that's...
Dude, there's so many people out there who have entire, chapters and companies, and, like, it's nuts. Like,
yeah, they're
Gladius is nothing to a lot of collectors out there.
Yeah, a lot of collectors can, like, open 5 drawers, and they're like,
they pull it out. They have it all.
What was Aiden? I think it's Aiden on the independent characters. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's got a full chapter, I think, of all.
Or he's working on it.
I think he's got them in boxes anyway. Yeah. To sort of bring her back a little bit on the matchup point, the thing I was trying to say is that because you're matching up, all right, if you're going into a singles list, into a singles event, you need a list that can, believe it or not, take all comers. The fluffy narrative players, golden, grail on the mountaintop. You can't win. You can't win. A tournament if the only thing you have is rock or scissors or paper. You need something with a mix. You need to be able to handle anything or things that you expect to be coming at you. When you're playing in a team event, because there's a matching element to it, you're actually bringing lists that are paper, scissors, and rock.
So, with a team event, does each team get to pick who faces who?
So, there's always a game. So, the way that they match it up is dependent on just how they made that game up. But for example, a Canhammer team tournament, and I might be wrong about how this worked, but essentially one team would win the roll-off. They would present a defender. Then the attacking team would present 2 attackers. So 2 lists for that one list to pair off against.
Oh, that's a really interesting way.
Right? And then essentially that I think the defender then would choose a list, and then there was an automatic pairing from there, and then you would sort of do that.
I really like that idea.
It would be a lot of fun to run something like that.
So what winds up happening that's actually super cool is that now you've got this metagame, because the score is actually the aggregate, so the combined total of all, in this example, four games going on. The total score is what the team scores and determines if you win the round or not.
Yeah.
Right?
Ah.
So your job as, like, the guy jumping on the hand grenade might be just don't lose too badly. And that's real. And also, that's fun.
You know what? I went from, when you started explaining this idea, I went from being like, that sounds like I would have no fun, to now I'm on board.
No, this would be like I could totally see this getting into like some off the table fun of some rivalries, some like I'm calling you out, bringing all that stuff in.
So I mean, if I don't know if they listen to the podcast or if anyone listens to the podcast, but there is the Canhammer guys.
I truly hope.
Me too. At least one guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it just might be me and my dog, Sweet Peaches.
Simon, if you want to say hello to Connor, he is definitely...
Connor! Shout out. Actually, Connor has a distinction over me in the sense that I talk to Adam, literally, after every single podcast, He has, in his, like, fun tactics I learned, they were all things I did to him in a game.
That's funny.
And I don't think I've been name-checked once on this podcast.
Oh, okay. Well,
Your pseudonym throws people off of wanting to actually speak of you as if you exist.
Big old fat Heffelfinger, man.
yeah. Well, you know what? We'll bust it out.
And
So,
I think, can I just throw something out here?
please.
The first paid footballer in history.
He's the first professional football player in history named Pudge Heffelfinger.
Whew.
Incredible.
He with a name like Pudge Heffelfinger.
That's real.
He was a guard.
You better be good at something.
He was an offensive guard, so he's got to be Pudge.
I also enjoy that he's just a
I
guy,
put- yeah.
just a guy on the line. He's the first one someone's like, we're going to pay you money to do this. He's just a huge fat guy.
Can you imagine the rest of the team's reaction to like, yeah, no, Pudge is getting money.
Well, he was from Harvard. No, he's from Yale. I misspoke.
He was from,
He's
don't
from Yale.
don't start shit, man.
I don't want to.
Oh,
I know you have a strong Ivy League rivalry theme to this podcast.
Oh yeah, no,
And have you seen his Facebook profile picture of the old timey person?
yeah, it's just a guy
That's-
with a
that's-
big fat head.
That's Pudge.
That's Heffelfinger himself.
Oh, get the heck out of town.
Yeah. So the secret's out. Name's not actually Heffelfinger, and I accidentally said it earlier. And I'll remind you again, Paul, to comically bleep that out. If you
I promise you, I will edit that and all other references to your last name.
Well, that's nice. There was only the one, I think. Anywho, so this matchup game is cool, and again, you are looking for trump cards, right? And also, you might be building a list that is your anchor. So when we were playing in the team tournament, we discovered very quickly that the guy playing. I don't want to.
Well, we are holding our tongues.
Okay, War Convocation. Okay, we're okay. All right, we're okay. The guy playing War Convocation, he was our anchor. It would just seem to match up the best against the most amount of possible opponents. Also, the guy playing our Warcon list was awesome and amazing at the game, so that was nice. I wasn't.
It's a really mean list.
It's super mean, but you got to know what to do with it. Like, it's also one of the most mind-melting lists. This is another reason why I have trouble with people who talk about, like, the win button.
Yeah, no, that one, that's like a lot of bookkeeping. I think I mentioned how Gwyn played the Horror Tendrils list. That is a bookkeeping list. You're summoning in so much. Like, to keep that stuff in your head while you're playing a game it's a skill set that, like, we don't cultivate. And by we, I mean, like, either fluff players or marine players.
Sure. Which is why, Gladius became a popular build. And, a lot of teams would have had a Gladius to be just that grinding, objective holding, immovable object type list.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the fun of it. So the idea there is, you are looking for trump cards. So now, 8th edition 40k drops. The first two big events are actually team events. So what are all the scary lists? All the scary lists out there right now are big, one-dimensional, alpha-striking monsters like the Ravenwing, the Storm Raven spam, or they're these gross horde things that can survive against turn one of Storm Raven spam.
Well, it's really interesting that, like, we're seeing these huge blobs of infantry, which might be a function of templates going away. Like, now you can have, like, 20 guys packed together as tightly as possible. There's no downside to that.
Well, I honestly think the spacing out of dudes in 7th edition took a lot of time. And I'm guilty about this. Orc players obviously are guilty
Or
of this.
just arguing over templates and how many dudes got hit. Like, I never did, but some people would.
Yeah.
Or the placing of them. So Renegades and Heretics was a very popular army build. Won the LVO, Las Vegas Open, last year. And, you're dropping... With like 4 wyverns in the back, or however many that the person would bring, plus basilisks and whatever, you're dropping so many templates. You're scattering each and every one of them. You're flipping them. You're counting them. You're re-rolling it because they were twin linked. Like all of this, like so much time spent on it.
No, the way wyverns work now is so much better.
But at the same time, you look at the BAO. So I didn't mention that one. The Bay Area Open is the sort of off-season ITC tournament out west, also run by the Frontline Gaming guys. Was won by an Astra Militarian player. Who also happened to have won last year with a completely different list, running Dark Angels and the guys on the bikes, the Raven Wing.
Oh, yeah. But, like, I like seeing Astra Militarum in, like, the top couple. Like, It's fun. I feel like for a long time Guard didn't get a lot of love, but now that I'm saying that, I'm like remembering like leaf blower lists were all the rage.
Right. Yeah, we're kind of back at that. And honestly, too, I think something to factor in is a lot of mission design. You guys talked a little bit about that on your tournament episode. Coming out in 8th edition, a lot of people just kind of stuck to rulebook, and not even Maelstrom rulebook. They stuck to the Eternal War missions.
Yeah.
Which tend to favor sort of those static, stand and shoot type armies. You don't have to move around as much. When you're looking at something like the way ITC missions are designed, or ETC, the team tournament I was talking about, usually you're playing 2 missions at least at the same time. You're playing an end of game, so stand on all the objectives, as well as progressive. So just like Maelstrom cards, go capture objective 3, go capture objective 1, kill a unit, whatever it is.
One of my so for the mission design that we did for the doubles tournament, I like the idea of scoring objectives every turn. That one becomes such a meat grinder. The idea of progressive objectives that you're speaking about, it's more like the Maelstrom cards that we're drawing 1 a turn, and you have to accomplish that in a turn, or do you keep it?
You keep it until you accomplish. It really depends on a design. Sometimes you discard them at the end of every turn.
Depends on and that comes down to the comp pack or the composition of the tournament. And you know what? That was a big thing. Like last year, so going from 2016 into the 2017 season, there was a big, decision point within the ITC missions of, do you score at the end of your at the end of your turn, or do you score at the start of your turn? So what the difference there is, you've got to survive a turn on the objective to score it.
Yeah.
Or you just score it at the end of your turn and you grab it. That's the way regular Maelstrom would work.
The new Maelstrom cards, I haven't had a chance to play yet, but I've watched some battle reports. The defend ones are awesome. The defend ones are, you have to hold them for 2 turns. It's not just you have to be on objective 6 at the end of your turn. It's you have to get on objective 6 at the end of your turn and continue to hold it at the end of your next turn.
In the late
love that.
In the late sort of part of 7th, there was, I don't know how many people played them. I bought two decks of them. They were called Tactical Supremacy cards. Do you remember those?
I didn't even
It came up. I was honestly playing Heresy at this point because I was kind of burnt out on 7th.
So they made Maelstrom just way more fun. And the reason being, they were slight variations on the type of objectives that you had to achieve. And they included things like, capture. So if you had to get an objective that was being controlled, kill the dudes on it and control the end of your turn. That's how you got it. Or defend, or just the regular old go grab it. They mixed it up, and the reason I brought that up is I feel like the current Maelstrom deck, as it is really inspired by those objectives on it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
I actually have not played a Maelstrom game of 8th yet.
I haven't bought a deck yet.
Yeah. I was in there, I guess, at the Sword and Board, purveyors of fine hobby products.
What is it?
I believe it's Bloor and...
It's Brock and Bloor.
Brock and Bloor.
Yeah.
That's right. It's a Pizza Hut?
Nope. It's the name of the food 2 times.
Right.
So it's just pizza.
Right.
You can't do that with any other food.
Fantastic.
Hamburger.
Nope. It's crazy. Taco actually works.
Little Caesars.
Shawarma.
No.
Anyway, Chicken actually is a franchise out west if we have any listeners there. But
I like how you're now like
first person plural.
I'm super
it's
into
the way I talk. All right, it's just it's the way I go. Anyway, sorry. Did you want to move on with your show?
Whatever. Like
you're on a roll, buddy.
Yeah, you're having a great time.
You keep going.
I think where we were there was just mission design, and here's actually something that I think maybe another thing that kind of grinds my gears sometimes is complaints about changing the way the game was made, which is an absurdity.
Yeah, there's no platonic idea of this game.
There is, and it is the rule book. Okay?
Have you seen that thing?
Which is an insane thing to say, especially in 7th edition. But actually, whether it's ITC or Nova or the European Team Championship or what have you, most of them are actually trying their hardest to take inspiration or really the missions from the rulebook itself and turn them into something that works a little bit better in competitive play. Because the idea being that is once you have a variety of mission objectives and styles, so progressive and end of game, and also an idea like first past the post, so the first person to, what's something that only one player can get? Oh, first blood. First blood would be a first past the post example.
Yeah.
Only one player can do that. You get that point. A combination that forces you to bring lists that can do all those things. So that's one of the reasons why Eldar were so dominant in 7th edition, is because they had jet bikes that could come on the table late game, go grab the objectives if they need to. They were just a very versatile army that was very good at doing all of the things. They maybe weren't the shootiest, they were maybe not the most resilient, but they could do what they needed to do.
Yeah.
Demons were another example of that.
Well,
They could be what they needed to be.
The thing I love about demons, especially on the competitive side of things, is that they could do stuff that no other army was able to do. They were able to bring in units reliably deep striking stuff all the time. Every time I play demons, it's like I'm playing something that doesn't exist.
Right.
And that's a really cool design idea, because they are these ethereal nonsense creatures.
7th edition demons, and even 8th edition demons too, are like a big old toolbox that you put down on the table, and they can be whatever you need it to be, which again is this idea of, it's the list. No, it's not the list, it's the person who's... You gotta have a good list. There's no way around that. You can't not have an optimized list, but you gotta know how to use it, and to running a 7th edition demons army and running it on time, on schedule, and not screwing it up, that was so hard.
Oh yeah,
so hard. I can't even... I sound so Canadian, but it was just very difficult.
Well, we apologize to a lot of people.
It's hard. So, basically the whole ramble there was just good mission design, basically draws from all of those things and forces, again, the idea of you need to attract armies that are more well-rounded. And you're going to move away, hopefully, we'll see, from the sort of scarier early 8th edition stuff that we're seeing right now that's got the internet aflame, this spammy, big evil monster type lists. So if I can round it out, I think one of the key things I really want to drive...
It says we can pause.
Oh!
We have that ability. It's a pause button on the recorder.
Just had to take a quick break there. Actually, now Simon's going to give us a brief word on comp, and then he's going to wrap up his section.
Actually, I think let's skip comp. I want you to give us the Cole's notes on why competitive can be good. I think that's what a lot of our listeners would benefit from, is hearing a little bit about that.
I think actually... not to immediately contradict you, but that relates to comp.
Fair.
Because I think
I win.
The awful truth, I think, about everything to do with this hilariously ridiculous game is that there is no such thing as the best format. And this is an editorial, but I think people get really upset about comp and changing the game. But really, what it does is it allows you to influence the types of armies that people bring to the table. So something that Hogtown might do. I heard you guys talking about maybe running a open-ended 8th edition tournament. I beg you, don't do that. Just comp it. Put some restrictions in place. The players who really want to win, they're going to bring the best choices no matter what. It'll just be more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah,
and it'll result probably in games that are more close to what I think your group expects.
So what kind of comp do you see as probably being more prevalent in 8th edition, with everything from more competitive tournaments to all the way down on our level?
Well, I would think that you'll start to see, because unfortunately I don't think organically it's going to happen fast enough, but stuff that's going to try and limit the amount of spam that you could bring, I would suspect. I think the game system, when you start adding in the codexes and stratagems and special rules, will start pushing people into more diversified army selection. But it might need a kick in the pants because people are freaking out, and this is a really golden moment, and I'm sure nobody wants it to pass.
Yeah.
So they might move that forward. I don't know. I'm talking out of my butt. I really don't know.
Oh, dude.
That's all we do.
We founded a podcast on butt talking.
That's what podcasts are about. But I would say, honestly, just as far as running events, one, don't be afraid of ITC points. I think they're awesome. They allow you to level up. They allow you to compare yourself, in a way, to players all around the world. They even have national Canadian rankings now, so you can be the best Assassins player, if that exists anymore, in Canada. You know, you can chase those little things. So it may not be about winning the big tournament, but it might be about doing it as best as you can with your pals, the Imperial Fists. You know, and I think comp allows you guys, or tournament organizers, or just organizers of the community in general, to make a decision on how should this game look. Because ultimately, players will play. You know, you want to, I think this is the core principle of the ITC. You want to have a comp that appeals to the most amount of players, that the middle tables can handle and have an enjoyable game playing. You don't want something on the extreme of either end, super boring or super unrestricted.
Yeah. Now, with comp, do you think that a system that's more stick than carrot, if that metaphor tracks, which one do you think is better? Do you reward players that kind of go towards the comp that you're looking for, or should you penalize players that want to go against it? I
think that carrot is what the game system will evolve to. That's the point of stratagems. So the way you get command points is by building armies that are well diversified and have lots of different units. So you have good list diversity. You know, the thing is, though, is 5 Storm Ravens is pretty good.
Yeah.
No matter how many stratagems you got. So, you know, that's why they reacted to that. And I think they will continue to. So to answer your question, I think ultimately, as the game is observed, and it's being observed, doing things that maybe are distasteful to the wider public, that, you know, I don't want to go play against that. Doesn't look like fun. That's the problem. Hey, that doesn't look like fun.
Yeah.
And I think the reason I'm here is that the narrative I hear constantly on this podcast is that competitive play, that's not my bag. It's not fun. And that, to me, couldn't be further from the truth. I think it comes from how you approach it, you know, the goals you set for yourself, and, you know, the attitude you bring to it. It's not the same thing as a narrative campaign. Narrative campaigns are a lot of fun, too. Competitive 40K, you know, in all sorts of different flavors, could be a really great time and super rewarding. So that's all I wanted to say. Stop ragging on the cheesemongers. Beating up on the whack gamers. You know, we don't win at any cost. I don't win at most costs.
Well, here's what I can offer. We're definitely going to keep beating up on them, but now there's way more caveats that will be applied, and I feel like I know a lot more. So just through having these definitions laid out for us, we just know more now. So
for sure, it's the fear of the unknown, and I think we talked about this before the podcast started. What you're talking about and what we've been talking about in this podcast is a whole different level from what Hogtown's at now. It's what we'd eventually like to be at, as well as I think you talked about mid-table quite a bit in your little spiel there, and I think honestly it's that type of fear, because there's so many people that I've heard in Hogtown especially who have said that they've never enjoyed going to an event. They're not going to the big ones. They're going to the ones where they do play, in my experience, an army of plastic dudes. You know, you're spending $50 to go play Warhammer for a day and you lose to an army of plastic guys.
Well,
that's not fun.
So that's comp. You know, like...
Yeah, no, exactly.
And actually, I got to get a plug in. August 18th to 20th, Capital City Bloodbath in Ottawa. It is an outstanding event. The organizers spend tremendous amount on terrain. The tables are gorgeous. And to win that event, you have to have an army that is well painted. You can't win that. You can win Best General, with tinfoil and toothpicks, but you're not winning the event.
Yeah. No, Simon sent me the list, or the posting for this event. I took a look at it. It looks a lot of fun. Really rad.
Tons of game systems too. These guys, I mean, it's at the Ernst & Young Center, EY Center, right by the airport in Ottawa. I went last year. I was really saddened by the lack of traveling Torontonians that made it out there. I don't know if it's just that they they don't know that it exists or that they counter themselves out. But it is well worth the drive to O-Town.
When you mentioned this to me, this was the first time I heard about that.
Wow.
Yeah, I like I said, I went to school in Ottawa, so I've heard about this before, but they were never really into 40K. I'm never really going back to Ottawa, so
There you go.
I'll go back
I
one
like
day.
the Elgin Street Diner. I'll go
I
there
love the
any day.
Elgin Street
Can
Diner.
Hammer Team Tournament, Cambridge, Ontario. But, yeah.
So I'm going to do one more point
Sure.
before you left. And I think it's a really good point that kind of sums this up, is that don't be afraid to lose.
Oh, yeah.
When you're playing Warhammer, don't be afraid to lose a game.
Yeah, it
You
doesn't
learn a lot
hurt.
when you lose, and losing well is a skill that'll help everybody in life, and it will definitely help you in 40K. So try to have fun. I think we talked about this many times in this podcast. It's all about having fun. People have fun in different ways, but you have to want to have fun. And if you're looking for reasons to get upset, to blame the other person for why you're losing, 10 deep breaths, look at yourself, have fun, learn something from the event, from the game, and up your game. It's a learning experience.
I mean, I was joking before when I said like we're going to continue like crapping on the WAAC. play.
Oh, I wasn't.
No.
But at the same time, I totally plan on sending you a couple of lists for you to critique in a second.
Buddy, I probably the absolute worst person to do that. There's lots of great forums for you to share that stuff. Although they'll just tell you anyway.
So we did also finally convince Simon to join the club, so he's going to come out and
Paid my $20.
Yeah.
he's going to come out and play
Rewrite the Constitution.
Yeah.
Nothing but knights.
All
That's fine.
nights. All nights and Razorback spam.
Yeah, but he's going to come out and he's going to play in super fluffy events. He's going to.
I'll tell you what,
he's
I'll
gonna
show up on a
write
Saturday.
fluff.
Yeah.
I
Hey,
want you to write some fluff for me.
my Tau army last year was the commander was Jack Laytown. It was an orange army.
Miss you till I meet you, buddy.
Yep.
And it was dedicated
Orange Crush.
to orange.
All right, well, guys, we got to take a real quick break here, and then we're going to get into fun time. There we go. That's the harmony.
And we're back. Simon had to leave us in a hurry. He jumped into his dirigible and took off.
Yeah.
No idea where he went. I don't know if I'll ever see him again. But I hope you guys out there in podcast land learned something from him. Great conversation. Super knowledgeable guy. Just gave us a different perspective of a different part of the hobby, which I think is always important. It might not be for you. You know, not everyone wants to play that level of gaming, but you can learn from it.
Well, I think, like, the thing that I really want to drive home with this episode is, sure, you maybe you don't want to play these competitive events, but look inside your heart.
Yeah.
Search your feelings. You know it to be true that you have a competitive edge.
Yeah,
I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you out there, this person that has headphones in. You know that you want to win these games. So it's not bad. Like it's so if you start to feel yourself like crapping on a competitive player, be like, well, am I just mad that my Simon Val brought up a great point where he's like
The Butcher of Baskin Robbins.
yeah. There's nothing more intriguing than the phrase, I can't go back there. And frankly, I don't blame them. But he brought up a great point off mic where it was like, listen, if you're playing all Assault Marines, you don't wish that your Assault Marines were better at shooting. Like, just build your list a little differently, maybe. Or consider what you want to accomplish.
Yeah. I definitely learned a lot from talking to him in the past couple weeks when he came up with this podcast idea, and from him being on this podcast. I really want to get in a game against him because he did really talk down how good of a player he is, so I'm hoping that he's worse than me. But I guess we'll see that on the table sometime.
Yeah.
So I know you left, kind of a cheap shot, but I am calling you out, and I do want to get a game against you sometime in the near future.
I would
Simon.
also love to see you play against my fists.
Me?
No,
Or Simon.
Simon.
Okay,
I'm talking.
I don't know. You're looking at me. And
Well, you're the
talking
only
to
person
him.
here, Nick.
That's true. All right, so we're into fun time now.
Fun time.
So we have, again, Games Workshop's doing a fantastic job of previewing things, getting people excited for new codexes, and the next one coming out, and we've talked about this before in the fluff, chaos is the enemy.
Absolutely.
Chaos is the focus, the evil villain, the mustache twirlers.
The primordial annihilator.
So, funny story, last night before bed, Julie did ask me to explain the game to her.
Oh,
so I started off with thousands of years ago.
You gotta be careful, dude.
Ancient shamans all committed suicide to meld their beings into the Emperor to fight off the undercurrent of the warp. And then I explained the 4 chaos gods, and I explained the dark age of technology. And then she was like, I want story time every night. And I was like, oh.
So what we want to do for fun time?
I am going to tell Paul about a Chaos Legion and their stratagems and their Legion trait that he knows nothing about, and he's going to react to it.
Yeah, we're doing this dollop style with apologies to Dave Anthony and Gareth Reynolds.
Gary. So we're going to start off with the boys in blue and white, formerly known as the Warhounds, the World Eaters. They've now covered their armor in blood and are no longer blue and white, now they're red.
That's ancient history.
That is ancient history. So the World Eaters, they eat worlds. There's a bolt thrower song about them. They are brutal. They have chain swords. No, they have chain axes.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're bad. They're Khorne Berserkers. Now, Khorne Berserkers already have the ability to fight twice in the assault phase, which means that each unit is activated twice. Now, their Legion trait, it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Angron's son... Oh, sorry, I'm going to restart this. World Eaters, Legion trait, the Butcher's Nails.
Yes.
Angron's sons hurl themselves towards their foe, intent on tearing them apart in a brutal whirlwind of violence. When a unit with this trait makes a successful charge, you can make 1 additional attack with each of its models in the subsequent fight phase. Which means you're making 2 additional attacks if they're Khorne Berserkers.
Holy cats.
If they're Chaos Space Marines, you're making 1 attack on the extra on the charge. Not too bad, especially if you've got a chainsword.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got Khorne Berserkers, you're looking at, I think, like 3 or 4 attacks doubled to 6 or 8 attacks on the charge.
That's nuts.
Also Hellbrutes.
Also Hellbrutes.
Also Contemptor Dreadnoughts.
Oh, man. I like this one, though. For those of you that don't know, I can't imagine that there are many of you, but the Butcher's Nails refers to an implant that is put in a World Eater's Astartes head that kind of just makes him more aggressive. Picture it as toxoplasmosis for Space Marines.
Not going to explain toxoplasmosis. Look it up, cat poop. You'll find out.
Yeah, you got Google.
Their stratagem. This is actually Oh no, this is Khorne specific. So this isn't World Eater specific, but this is Khorne specific.
Yeah.
It's called Fury of Khorne. It's 3 command points, which goes back to your point earlier about command points being off. We'll talk about that in a second. So use this stratagem at the end of the fight phase. Select a Heretic Astartes Khorne infantry or biker unit. That unit can immediately fight again. That's 3 command points.
For Khorne, though, it makes sense that that's 3.
3 command points.
But you're taking a unit of Khorne Berserkers. You can make them fight 3 times in a phase.
Yeah, but pair that up against the Emperor's Children one, where it's 2 command points and you get to shoot again at the end of the shooting phase.
Yeah. But you are running an assault list.
True.
Right?
Yeah,
with Emperor's Children, you should be running a combined arms.
Yeah. World Eaters are kind of one-dimensional. Fun.
But you know what? I get this one at 3 points.
Because it's kind of like you are locked in. You did not take out that unit that you needed to take out after fighting twice with Berserkers.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one more shot.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good.
I honestly think, like, if you have 3 left at the end of the game and you need to clear off something off an objective, or you need Slay the Warlord, anything like that, this is a nice situational one.
It'll be fun. So this pairs well with the World Eaters specific Warlord trait. Now we're into Warlord traits. You're giving us some little drips here.
Yep.
So add 1 to your Warlord's attacks and strength characteristics each time he slays a character, monster, or Titanic model.
not bad. Assaulting characters is a bit harder to pull off. Assaulting Titanic models, like, is he going to be killing a Titanic model?
Probably not, but a monster maybe.
Yeah.
Could be good.
Well, it gets easier as you keep killing.
So that's Karn the Betrayer's warlord trait. I think it can be given to any Khorne warlord.
Yeah.
So the next one, we're going to talk about a relic and another stratagem. Yeah, another stratagem. So the brass collar of Borgastor.
Borgastor?
Borgastor. So this is a World Eater's model only. It just says World Eater model only. I don't think it replaces a piece of war gear, so it's basically free.
Yeah.
The bearer of the brass collar of Borgastor can attempt to deny one psychic power in each enemy psychic phase.
Okay.
Like an enemy psyker. But if this model makes a successful deny the witch test, the psyker that was attempting to manifest the power suffers immediate perils of the warp attack.
That's cool. That's nice and fluffy. It represents Khorne not digging on the whole wiggly finger witches.
Gets better.
Tell me more.
The Scorn of Sorcery World Eater Stratagem.
Okay.
This is one command point. Use this stratagem when an enemy psyker manifests a psychic power within 24 inches of any World Eater's unit.
Okay.
On a 4+, the effects of that psychic power are ignored.
Holy cats. That's probably some of the best psychic defense in the game.
Because it's any World Eaters. So you can, first of all, you have the Scorn of Sorcery, so you can spend that command point. You roll the d6. On a 4+, the effects of the psychic power are negated. You don't roll that 4+. You spend another command point
to
and
re-roll it. Yeah. So
because you're World Eaters, you're not rolling anything in the psychic phase.
No.
That's really good.
That is really good. Now, this speaks to a weird thing, where, from everything I can tell, you can take Khorne sorcerers.
We might see some stuff in the new codex. I hope we do.
Yeah.
Because it would only take, like, one line just being, like, no unit. And the way Legion traits are worded, same like chapter tactics, everybody has to have the same one for you to have access to these specific stratagems, relics, and warlord traits.
Yeah, like when Jesse played me, he had a Khorne sorcerer, and I was like, Khorne sorcerer, and he just, like, shrugged, and...
You can really twist it to be fluffy and narrative, not so much from, like, a psychic way, but, like, this guy's, like, getting the bloodlust up, right? Like, the chaos one's, like, warp time, where someone's moving twice, and like that stuff. It's not sorcery. It's like he's just angry, and he's got the power of Khorne behind him.
Heck, Melisandre used King's blood to birth a demon baby to stab people miles away. It was blood magic.
It was blood magic. We know the fire priests and priestesses are heretics already. So
they seem like the only one that, like, legit does anything.
I know, that's true.
Anyways, we'll get back to that.
So moving on, we're going to move into everyone's favorite trolls besides Trazen, the 20th Legion, the Alpha Legion. Are they good? Are they bad? Who knows? Am I Alfarius? Is Paul Alfarius? Simon's probably Alfarius. He's gone. I don't know where he is. I've only seen him twice in my entire life.
It's true. Bad news for you, those of you listening in podcast land. You're also Alfarius.
Yeah, you just don't know it yet. So this is a little... we talked about this last time with the Iron Warriors and the Imperial Fists. This is the same one that the Raven Guard have.
Yeah.
But...
Wait,
this one's really good. Yeah, your opponent... so this is called Hidden in Plain Sight. Your opponent must subtract 1 from to hit rolls that target units with this trait if they are more than 12 inches away.
Oh, so that's the Alpha Legion one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Same as the Raven Guard one. But you know what?
It makes sense.
It works for both.
Yeah.
Because it's good.
Mm-hmm.
If the Imperial Fist one was good, you wouldn't complain about the Iron Warriors one.
No, I wouldn't.
So that's really good. Makes sense for Alpha Legion. You're never really sure. Like, Alpha Legion... like, they dress in other people's clothing. You're never sure if they are Alpha Legion. They could be Ultramarines. They've done that before, where they actually almost killed Rabute Gilliman.
Well, they were the reason that he was in stasis. No, that was Fulgrim, I'm sorry.
That was Fulgrim, yeah. No, in
Yeah, when the fake Alfarius is killed.
No. In one of the earlier Horus Heresy books, a squad of Ultramarines come back from Calth and they like demand a presence with Marinus Calgar, and he's like, not Marinus Calgar, Rabute Gilliman, and he's like, "Oh, you guys are heroes! Like you brought me messages," and then they just like start firing bolters at him when he's wearing a toga in his throne room, and he like somehow rips them all apart anyways.
Yeah.
And you're like, why would you send 5 Space Marines against a Primarch?
Just to do it.
Just to do it.
Yeah, like at that point you're just disrupting.
Yeah. So, for some reason, this article also gets into some sorcery stuff, but I'm going to finish off with the Alpha Legion stuff. I love this. This is the Warlord trait. So, any Alpha Legion character, basically you take this Warlord trait, because this is the wording. In addition to this Warlord trait, your Warlord has one randomly selected Space Marine Warlord, Chaos Space Marine Warlord trait. So you do have to randomly select it, but you get this Warlord trait, and this Warlord trait by itself is an awesome Warlord trait. Each time your Warlord is slain, you can immediately select another Alpha Legion character in your army to take the place and generate a new Warlord trait for this one, including this one. If the mission you are playing grants victory points for slaying the enemy Warlord, your opponent will only achieve that objective if all of the Alpha Legion characters in your army have been slain.
Hilarious.
Mind you, this isn't as good as it would have been in 7th.
Where sergeants are characters.
Yeah, so now you're only looking at things like sorcerers, exalted champions, lords. But still,
It's
hilarious.
Still really funny. Like, I like this one. I like the idea of chasing characters. It's fluffy. It's also really powerful. It's like it's a point denial.
Yeah.
Like you're seldom going to get slay the Warlord against an Alpha Legion player.
No, not unless you kill all of their characters, which is not easy.
Mm-mm.
So also in this article, we're reading the Games Workshop article right now, they have my favorite psychic power and one of my favorite stratagems that comes with Chaos. I'm going to be taking a Chaos Sorcerer on my list every game now. So the new Chaos psychic power, there's going to be 6 total. Warp Time we've talked about before. Warp Time is just you pick a Heretic Astartes unit and it immediately moves as if it was the movement phase. Super good. Super utilitarian. The one I want to talk about is Death Hex. So Death Hex has a warp charge value of 8. If manifested, select a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, that unit cannot take invulnerable saves.
That being able to pick the unit, really good. 12-inch range, really good.
Yep.
Beats out Null Zone a little bit. The warp charge is more expensive.
No, same.
Really?
Null Zone is warp charge 8.
Is Null Zone all units?
No, just one enemy unit.
No, I mean, is Null Zone.
Everybody within 6 inches of the Psyker that's casting the power. So
Yeah.
Death Hex is like very specific. You're like, that unit of Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators needs to die. I'm going to kill it.
Right.
Whereas Null Zone is, you have to be like really close. Null
It's
Zone,
for a
like,
Terminator library.
yeah, I feel like Null Zone is like really meant to like deal with like demons.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, Death Hex would just ruin a Dark Eldar Archon's day.
Yep. It ruins... Well, no, it wouldn't be so bad for Storm Shield Terminators. It still would suck for them.
Yeah, well, they'd lose their 3-up invulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So this pairs very well with the stratagem that I'm going to talk about now. The Chaos Familiar. Use this stratagem at the start of your Psychic phase. Select a friendly Heretic Astartes Psyker. That model can replace any of its psychic powers with a power of your choice from the Dark Hereticus discipline. So
That's so good.
So if it's one command point.
Yeah, like, that's...
So if you didn't take Death Hex and you're staring down Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators, you spend a command point at the beginning of your Psychic phase, all of a sudden your Psyker now has Death Hex, and you can blow that squad off the table.
Yeah, that's a really good stratagem.
Yeah.
Maybe really cheap for 1 point, but it's also very situational.
Oh, it definitely is, but it is very, like, forgiving for Chaos, right? Because you're like, oh, I didn't take the right powers, and it gives you so many options because you can do it every cycle. You could say, like, I need this. If it really comes down to winning the game, you could say, I need this psychic power this turn, and the next psychic phase you could swap back.
Yeah, so that's 2 command points, but at the same time, like, what else would you use that command point for? And given, like, how long Chaos has been rolling on random tables for, like, cool stuff, I'm fine with them getting this.
Yeah. So that's Alpha Legion in a nutshell. The next one I'm going to talk about is everybody's favorite, the Sons of the Batman, the Night Lords.
I wish I liked the Night Lords more. I like their characters, but as a Legion, I don't like them.
I don't like them as a Legion. I do love their characters.
Like,
Sevatar, Cruz, great backstories. But, and it's kind of just, I think they did a really good job of developing them, that you don't have that sympathy with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kurz started off as the Batman, but then his entire Legion was made up of Joker henchmen. And he was like, oh God, what have I done?
Yeah, that's the funniest way I've heard that put in a long time. Like, I like Sevatar just because he's essentially a vampire.
Yeah.
Like,
No, they're awesome. So Terror Tactics. This is the Night Lord Legion special trait. This has the ability to be absolutely devastating towards the right units with the right combos. So models in enemy units, which is a weird way of putting this, so you just say enemy units must subtract one from their leadership characteristic for each Night Lord's unit that is within 6 inches of them, to a maximum of -3.
whoa.
So if you take the icon of Despair, which is -1 to leadership within 6 inches, fire a Butcher Cannon array at somebody, which is another -1, you're knocking down people to -5 leadership.
That's really cool.
Yep.
Like, not crazy overpowered, but really cool. It's nice to see the Night Lords having, like, a real effect on the morale phase.
Well, it's just enough to make your enemies, your opponents, scared of being ganged up on by Night Lords units.
And, to go back to the Joker henchman analogy, that's how Joker henchmen win.
Yep. So, some great stuff here. The relic for the Night Lords is called the Claws of the Black Hunt. So this replaces 2 Lightning Claws. So this is actually pretty pricey.
Mm-hmm.
But, so like I said, it replaces 2 Lightning Claws, and it's melee weapon, strength +1, AP -3, and damage D3.
Okay.
But you increase the wielder's attack characteristics by 1.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, you can reroll failed to wound rolls for this weapon.
So it's a D3 damage Lightning Claw.
That's also +1 strength and AP -3. That gives you +1 attack.
That is brutal.
Yeah.
So it's a pair of Lightning Claws.
Yeah, it's a pair of Lightning Claws that does D3 attacks, has an additional strength and an additional AP value.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great little. It is a little powerful,
but
you're paying for it because you have to pay for the 2 Lightning Claws.
Yes. I like the way that the relics are going. How they replace, like, certain equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have a problem with that at all, because you're already buying, like, a Lord or an Exalted Champion or something.
Yeah, so the next one is the Warlord trait for the Night Lords. So some of you may know, if you know the fluff, that the Night Haunter himself, Conrad Cruz, who was killed by Martin Sheen, the assassin Shen, was a precog.
Yep.
So this is saying that some of their warlords share the curse of foresight that plagued the Primarch. Once per battle, you can reroll a single hit roll, wound roll, or damage roll, advance roll, charge roll, or a saving throw made for your warlord. I don't see this being worth much. You have command points for this.
True. It's not the worst. Like, you can save is it once per game or once per?
It's once per game.
Yeah,
If it was once per turn, then it'd be good.
Yep. No, not that great. No, wouldn't be taking that.
And then they throw in another psychic power called Diabolic Strength. This would pair very well with the claws. So this has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select a Heretic Astartes unit within 12 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, add 2 to that model's strength and 1 to his attacks characteristics.
Just give the librarian the lightning claws.
Yeah.
Just have him tearing through guys.
Or Demon Prince.
Don't be like that.
That's good for warp charge 6 and being able to swap it out, because we've already talked about that. And the last thing we're going to talk about today is the Night Lord stratagem. If my browser refreshes, there we go.
Yay.
This is great. This is 1 command point. Again, perfect for when someone's firing Hellblasters at you. This is going to ruin Hellblaster's day. Use this stratagem when a Night Lord's infantry unit is targeted by a shooting attack. So your opponent has already declared what they're shooting at.
Yeah.
You spend 1 command point, and for the rest of the phase, your opponent must subtract 1 from all hit rolls that target that unit. You have to use this at the right time. If someone's firing bolters at you, you don't use it. You wait till they're firing plasma.
Overcharged plasma.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
You not bite my pencil? I do need that.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's all right. Don't worry about it. But yeah, if somebody's just like, I'm firing my Hellblasters at you, I'm going to overcharge. You're like, trap card.
I like this one. I like it a lot.
Because they have to fire.
They do.
Declared it.
And especially with Hellblasters, because you can't split. Yeah. Oh, that's really good.
Because it's any Night Lord's infantry unit. Terminators.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really, really good.
Yeah. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Like, it's not overpowered, but it's really...
Remember, you can only use it once per phase. Right? So your only 1 unit is getting this per enemy shooting phase. But like Night Lords, after reading this, they've done a really good job of capturing that kind of psychological aspect. Like, you don't want them to get ganged up. You don't want to get ganged up on by Night Lords. And you're always making your opponent
play a little conservatively.
Because they're scared. Because you don't want to fire that overcharged plasma. If you commit your heavy-duty, super-shooty unit to firing at a Night Lord's infantry unit, all of a sudden it becomes less effective.
Yeah. That's really cool. I like this one a lot.
Yep. So that's it for the 3 that we wanted to talk about today. Next week, we will have access to the Chaos Space Marine Codex, which I am super stoked to talk about.
So next week, that's what we're doing?
Maybe?
Comes out when? Saturday?
Saturday.
Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah, we could probably do it. We'll figure it out. I got exams next week. It'll be difficult. So thanks for listening on episode 13, Lucky 13. Hope you learned something from our special guest today. I really enjoyed having him on.
Super fun. Super fun to have him out.
Yep. Great guy. Brought us beer. Taught us a thing or two, which is always great. Simon, if you have any pointers on the parts of the podcast where you weren't here, tell it to Paul.
And I'll tell the world.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us.
All right, guys. You out there in podcast land, you just stay safe. You just stay so safe. This has been and will remain Paul Mr. Fist Fowler.
Point and click, Nick.
And Adam Truax, the truest axe to ever axe an axe.
And thanks for joining us. And check back again soon for some more 40k goodness. And remember, it's just inches and cubes.
Like a monkey in a rocket on his way back home. Okay.